All right, guys, welcome to Strong Principles. I'm Rob Delacruz.
I'm Larry Medina.
I'm Zach Bragg.
And I'm Pete Miller.
We got Pete Miller in the house today with us.
Thanks for having me back.
Another one. It's always good when Pete's here with us. We always get to nerd out, go back and forth a little too much sometimes, like the last 2 episodes ago with you guys.
A little off topic.
All right, so today, guys, we're talking about not only that you need strength training, but cardio conditioning and why it's so important. We preach a lot about strength training, but we do actually preach and work a lot on conditioning just as much, even though like strength isn't, it's like strength and conditioning. Now, I always believe strength is the base. That's the base you want, especially for like longevity and health. It depends, like unless you were like doing cardio conditioning as your sport and you really needed that. Mm-hmm. But the thing is with cardio, and I'll like go cardio conditioning together, you have like your aerobic and your anaerobic, all right? They kind of blend together a little bit. They're never like truly separated, but there's ways and designs to do it. So Larry just asked me a question. So what is the difference between a well-designed conditioning or cardio workout with intent and one that's not? Nothing wrong with like just going for a ride or just going for a run and like clearing your head. Those are all great. And those are forms of like conditioning. And I'm not saying never do them. And the difference would be like going for a run, keeping a certain pace, looking at your heart rate, like pacing and monitoring and having intent. And then the next time, increasing that and progressing. That's a difference. Both of them have their place. One's much more effective. And so what we tend to see with cardio or conditioning, because a lot of people in a lot of group classes are there and like the latest franchise models, they're kind of chaotic and they're all over the place. One thing with conditioning, it's much more effective. It's the same thing with strength. If you're just going in there and you're just doing odd end stuff, or you have a plan. Is the plan set up? Is there a lot of intent? When they come in, is there like pacing set up? Do we have rest intervals? What are we doing with this? This is so important.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not that like to your point, just kind of like mindless cardio. It's not that. So if somebody wants to get in shape and they're just starting off, they're going, I'm going to start running, half a mile every day, and then I'm going to go to a mile every day, and they're just kind of going. They're not really have a set program forward. They're not like it's not that you won't see improvement with that, but really a well-structured program is going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. You're going to see the most out of that. And it can also improve your strength training as well is a good cardio program. So it really just having it laid out properly. And so we use its proper rest periods. It's training all the different zones. And then like Rob said, aerobic and anaerobic, they're closely related. And so, but you still can train those different energy systems. And then also we use an RPE scale. I think we've talked about it before, but rate of perceived exertion. So paying attention to your RPE. So, it's on a scale of 10. So there's times when your RPEs are really low and you just want to have a really low day. It's not just about going all out every single day in your cardio. Just like strength training, it's not just about going all out every single day. It's about having a well thought out program for it.
Now, would we say that along with your prescribed cardio or a good program, it would be good to do mindful cardio or mindless cardio to be active throughout the day, right? Like so you could marry both, right? Like where you have mindless cardio, just so you're not like sedentary, etc.
I'll let Pete jump into this.
So I always think of cardio and conditioning as two different things. Cardio is I'm just going to go for a walk. I'm going to get sweaty. Conditioning is something like strength that I'm going to progress. I'm going to push harder. I'm going to work on pathways with conditioning. Cardio is just getting my steps in, getting moving. So yes, it's never a bad thing to move. We always want to get more movement. Obviously, we want to burn more calories. We want to consume more energy. But when I think of cardio and conditioning is more, am I fixing my pathways? What am I doing with pathways? How am I improving pathways? So it's never bad to just go for a mindless walk, because being sedentary, you're creating way more problems down the line of, bone density, like we just talked about, things along those lines. So mindless cardio isn't useless, but there's better ways and better bang for your buck with proper structured conditioning.
Yeah, so like me and Pete go back and forth because like the guys on the force that Pete's responsible for in their training, like just going out there and doing it, that's fine. You get something out of it. But if you have intent and it's properly set up, it's much more effective. I'm always going to go that route. And that doesn't have to be boring or it doesn't have to be like hardcore, but it's got intent and progressions with it. So the difference is like the mindless, like mindless is not even, I would say that type of conditioning is like, hey, I went for a hike.
Yes.
I went bike riding. I went for a ruck for a little while, compared to like, hey, I have specific intent. I'm doing a 30-30 on the air bike for 10 minutes. I'm taking a 5-minute rest. I'm doing that 3 times at a specific pace, a wattage. And there's the difference there of that setup. Both of them should be done. Both of them definitely should be done. But the one that mindless, which is not a good word for it, is that should just be like your activities that you're just going to do stuff. Pickleball, that's a conditioning. You're out there. That's just your activities you're doing. You're hiking, you're rowing, you're walking, you're even like easy jogging. Those are activities you're going to do, and biking, you just go and do them. Now, when we're doing cardio, like Zach said, cardio can enhance strength training. One, it gives you like more work capacity to be able to get through your workouts better. Opens up capillaries, does like a whole bunch of things. But we like to separate them, and I think it's best separated, unless you're like in such a crunch, and once in a while you can put them together. But we like to separate them a lot of times. And what we program, because we have a specific way to lay out 6 days a week, we'll do one a lot of times, maybe more of like an intense like interval kind of, or it's called like aerobic power based / and then one a little longer, slower. So one like more interval based, kind of intense, one lower paced, slower. And that's where we try to kind of like stay within that range. It's not perfect, but the best we can do in a group.
Yeah.
And one of the things I really like about what you guys do is, if we were to sit here and talk about a strength program, you would tell me how you're going to progress a bench press or how you're going to progress this, but you do the same with conditioning. If I come to you and say, hey, explain to me your Tuesday workout, you're going to tell me which pathways this is hitting, why the intervals, why there's rest, what this is meant to do, and how it's going to tax my body and make me better. It's smart conditioning because it's programmed with intent.
Yeah, it makes it. The way I look at it too is it kind of like if you're trying to improve your time on a 5K, you're not going to just run fast the whole time.
Correct.
Right? You're going to run. You're going to take a pause, maybe walk a little bit. There's going to be a very mindful program.
Like a lot of intent, a lot of mindfulness. And like, for instance, you're going to do a 5K, but in between each K, you're going to have a 3-minute rest, and you're going to do it at a pace that's a little faster than you're going to do. Like there's, I mean, I'm just throwing in some methods, but there's all different ways how to go into that, which is not just going run the 5K every time once a week to see where you get. Yeah. Because eventually you hit a wall.
Yeah, 100%. And one thing that you mentioned, just for the layman, aerobic versus anaerobic, what's the difference?
Zach, you want to go into it? You want me to do it?
Go ahead.
All right. So aerobic is a longer distance. So you're on your aerobic system. The anaerobic system, they work off of different pathways, and Pete was talking about it a little bit. It's a utilize of different energy that the body has, not to get like super complex. So anaerobic is more of sprinting and short burst. You work off a different energy in the body that it absorbs and utilizes it. Aerobic is the longer distance. So it's aerobically. Your aerobic system works it all. So that, like, it's not like, bam, one thing shuts off and the other one. It's all kind of going together a little bit. Yeah. But you go and do a couple 50-yard sprints, you quickly figure out that is not the same thing as running the 5K or further. So it's just, you work off a different energy.
Yeah, I was trying to think of a way to illustrate it. But there's not an on and off switch necessarily. But if you were to look at like athletes, a football player, a running back, quick explosive sprint, they're very attuned to an anaerobic side. They also have a high amount of output that they can give for a short period of time. And so for them, not that anaerobic is easy, but aerobic is going to be very potent for them because they're going to have a hard time staying in that energy system versus a long distance runner can almost turn things aerobic. So there's certain people who are set up different ways, but if you give a long distance runner short sprints or a hard air bike for like 10 seconds, they're like, this is nothing. This is easy.
They're probably because
not able to produce enough power to get into that system. So it's not an on-off switch, but there is certain people who are predisposed based off of, their background that allows them to get into those energy systems better.
It reminds me of like if you watch a UFC fight, you have a 135er versus, and how they can just go at 100 miles an hour for 25 minutes versus the 265 pounder.
Bigger mass, more muscle, more power.
More taxing.
More force.
Correct.
Yeah.
So for me, the way I always looked at it is like runners. You have a marathon runner, they have a certain build. and you say you have your 800 meter, they have a different build. And then you look at your 100 meter sprinter, they have a different build. That's how I picture the systems, just the aerobic to anaerobic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so also
Definitely.
in the heart, cardiovascular, they do two different things. So like a little more short sprint intervals, like the work the heart in a certain way. So it's like more short bursts, and then the longer distance, like aerobic, works the heart and the valves, long compressions. So they do two different things in the heart. One of it's like more and thickens the wall, and the other one kind of lengthens and like strengthens the valve that like flows.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of getting like really technical.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm like not even getting into the whole thing about it. But yes, those are some of the adaptations that they do.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
But I was trying to think about this. Like, again, all that conversation goes back to the program, because
Yeah.
if you're just a person who goes in and like we said, does activity in everyday life, you're not really exposing yourself to any of those energy systems, any of those pathways. And two, I was trying to think of a way to illustrate this earlier, a way to explain it earlier, but also for your mental, if you go into the gym and like, yes, activity is great, or just walking or hiking or whatever your sport is great. But if you go into the gym and have an actual intent set up, this 30 on, 30 off air bike, like Rob mentioned, or it's a 1 minute on, 1 minute off, or you're moving into some aerobic speed work versus, whatever it may be. If you have that intent laid out and you're looking at that, you're prepping yourself for that, and then you go into the workout versus just saying, I'm going to go into the gym and ride a bike. Which one do you think you're going to push harder on? Which one do you think you're going to actually really focus on more? So that's why I think having an intent laid out and a program laid out, it also mentally kind of keeps you in it, makes you want to keep coming back to the gym to do the next thing. So it's not just physical too. I think it helps with longevity.
I'm going to dive in a little bit on the programming a little deeper too about it. And so in strength training, let's take, for instance, like the back squat. It's really, really, so strength's real specific, and so is conditioning specific. So what I mean by that is like a back squat is going to have carryover to other squats to a certain extent. But if you want to get stronger at the back squat, you need a back squat. Okay. So for instance, my first week of back squatting, I'm doing 3 sets of 5 reps at like a 50%, whatever range. Next week, I'm doing 3 sets of 5 reps at a 55%. The next week, you just kind of, and you move it up. And then I might go 3 sets of 3 reps at a really high, or I might, but I'm progressing. Really good aerobic work progresses like that. We don't tend to do that because, like, for instance, we would do like a 30-30 this week at this certain wattage RPE. Next week, we're going to do the same 30-30, but we're going to add another 2 minutes to the 30-30, and we're going to go a slight. I have seen aerobic work people get aerobic benefits out of kind of changing it more and not having to do so much progression. One, it's because it's much more boring for individuals just to do the same thing over and over aerobic work. We've figured out a way how to get by that with the strength training. But in aerobic work, two, I have seen people get really, really good results by varying aerobic work more.
Yeah.
And so that's like kind of diving into that a little bit of the programming of aerobic work. Because like real aerobic work, like let's say you're running a 5K. Your week 1 would be like 1K, 2-minute rest 3 times, or 5 times. Then the next time would be that same with like a little bit faster pace with less rest. And it just kind of like goes through that, but you're doing like the same shit over and over.
Yeah.
That gets old.
It
Gets old.
With general population.
100%.
Yeah. So we've like kind of really got really good at figuring out programming, how to progress them aerobically, but kind of like give them a good enough variance.
Keep it interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
A new challenge, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's really what it boils down to.
Yeah. I think certain strength has to look a certain way of progressing it and overloading it. And I believe like seeing conditioning, you can get away with a little more variance as long as it's kind of you're working on similar stuff over and over again.
Yeah, I think too the bodybuilding world. So for anybody who's getting into training from the bodybuilding world, they you always see all these bodybuilding guys and they're like, oh, today's cardio. They do 30 minutes of cardio in the morning, and what they do, they just go on the stepper, or they just ride the bike for 30 minutes. And so that's kind of become what everybody thinks you can do. What we're saying is that there's more importance than just doing that. Is that you do have to hit all these energy systems, you do have to hit all these pathways, go into the gym with some intent, a laid out program that can actually improve your conditioning, not just getting cardio. So
And I can talk to that because we had talked in another podcast about just from law enforcement, how when I first started, we would bodybuild, and then our conditioning was we would run for 30 minutes. So that was what we thought was good. But I can tell you from experience, having gone to a call, gotten into a fight, then into a sprint, then into another fight, I was not prepared for that. That 30-minute run did not transition to the strength and pathways and energy I needed, and I was spent. I could run for 30 minutes if I wanted to, but I couldn't fight, sprint, fight. I had no energy.
Yeah, so that's going into like
That's
the
a good
third
point.
part. So like we said, we like to separate strength and conditioning, but we do things and we bring it together. So then we just bring together and you work on overall work capacity. So the way I look at work capacity, and Pete, you can like.
Well, no, I was going to say what you guys do really well is there's another form of training where we mix them, where they mix them, and you just end up beating yourself down. But you segment it into a training day, into a conditioning day. And then at the end on a Saturday, like we just did, they meld perfectly together because you have built those pathways, but not enough to interfere with them and stop each one of them from progressing.
Correct. And so Zach, the definition, the way I like to talk to people about work capacity is the ability to move through multiple different things for a period of time. Could be like strength. You might have to jump on like your ability. You can go through a lot of different things. That's work capacity. Now we'll separate them, but then we bring it together to work on it. Now you want to build the base of separation, but you got to build it, because if you don't build work capacity and you're in something like Pete, you figure out the hard way really quick. I don't have capacity. I can run real well and I can move a whole bunch of weight, but I can't run and move weight and struggle and wrestle together.
It's scary when it happens.
Yeah.
You learn very fast that it's time to go to Vero Strength and Conditioning and get a little fitter.
awesome.
Yeah. So So we got the conditioning is really important. As much as we preach strength, the conditioning is just as important with intent. Having true work capacity is bringing it all together, but you only want to do that sometimes after you build your bases with it, and then go from there. But always, we're not against going out there, going for a jog, going for a hike, going for activity.
Healthy lifestyle.
But always have an intent, and programming will always make the training more effective.
Yeah.
All
Awesome,
right.
guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. This has been Strong Principles.